Hi, I'm Glenn Campbell. Well, good morning, everyone. Drill Pal Jordan the Lion and my mom, and we're heading out of Atlanta. We're actually going back to H&H Soul Food. We decided since it's brunch day, we're gonna go have brunch. So we're gonna drive an hour and a half, and then we're gonna eat, turn around and drive an hour and a half back, and we are going to the Jimmy Carter Presidential Library. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. Well, we're back for brunch because we enjoyed the food so much the other day and we couldn't have the breakfast, which is what all the Allman Brothers band members had their meals named after.
And maybe she's here today.
Yeah, that's kind of the other thought. Plus we figured, hey, we can swing by the Allman Brothers graves again. There it is. Look at that car out front. Nice touch. Tad bit busier than it was the day we were here the other day. It's completely full. All right, we got seated, and most of the breakfast is all named after the band members or their friends. So you see the Butch, the Midnight Rider, the Barry, the Ramblin' Man, the J-Mo, the Sky Dog. All right, I got country fried steak and a side of deviled eggs. Those are cheese grits. That just comes with the meal. I don't think I've ever had grits, so that's what my mom got. Look at her shirt. Well, the food was excellent. Since we came all the way back to Macon to eat, we're gonna stop and see the Allman Brothers Band at the cemetery again. Yep, there are the train tracks. Elizabeth Reed will be in memory of Elizabeth Reed right to our right here, right there. And then their grave is, if you see these trees coming up here, there's a little dirt road in between them that you almost go, hey, I shouldn't go there, but you can. I know we were just here, but being so close to my mom's favorite band, we had to come back. Plus, this time, came back with something more appropriate. Allman Brothers Band guitar picks from the big house. So we're gonna lay one at each headstone. All right, let's lay one down for Barry Oakley. Then of course we have to leave one for Dwayne. Have to. And look, since we were out here last, somebody left a new mushroom right out here for him that wasn't here before. For you, Dwayne. And lastly, for Gregory. Now we're gonna head off back to Atlanta and go to the Jimmy Carter Presidential Library and Museum. We have arrived. Here we go. That is the front of the Carter Center Presidential Library and Museum. Well, we are definitely in it. Look at that. That's kind of cool. I feel like you're in a press conference right here. That's kind of how they start it. I jokingly said to the lady when we were buying our tickets, I go, so President Carter's given us this tour personally, right? And she goes, you just missed it. I did not live through the Carter administration, so I'm kind of curious as to what all will be in here. I really just know him, you know, probably like many people from my generation, as the man who helps Habitat for Humanity so often. And actually, I should say he and his wife, they both do. Here we have his birth record, so he for sure was born, no question about that. James Earl Carter Jr., Jimmy now, but later, of course, I will be Jim, it says under baby's name. So his parents would have written that. Wednesday, October 1st, 1924. Physician, Dr. Sam P. Wise. Born in Plains. Now that is Rosalind's baby spoon, and it says, you can see on there, it's monogrammed ERS for Eleanor Rosalind Smith. That's what her parents originally named her. Let me see if we can zoom in enough for you to see that. There's our young president going to grade school, first grade. And then these crystal salt and pepper shakers came from Jimmy's boyhood home in Archery, Georgia. Interesting. How about that? It says, although he was in the class of 1947, Jimmy Carter graduated in '46 as an ensign in the U.S. Navy. He was part of an accelerated program to get trained officers ready for combat during World War II. Oh, it's their wedding day. And it says the one on the left is Rosalind holding their firstborn, Jack Carter. Oh, cool. It's Jimmy's camera, the rangefinder. Jimmy was an avid photographer during his years in the Navy, and he used his Argus rangefinder camera to take photographs of his family, shipmates, and travels. Cool. So, just say what it is. He's a vlogger. And that's Jimmy holding his third son, Don. That was Jimmy's father, and it says his father, Earl, died in 1953. And the family came back to Plains to run the Carter warehouse. Till, of course, Jimmy runs for senator and has 2 terms as senator of Georgia. District 14 represents 80,000 constituents in 7 counties of southwestern Georgia. Now that's 1966. It says Jimmy was running for his first campaign as governor, but Lester Maddox wins the race. Of course, it says he ran twice and finally won in the second time. 1970. That famous smile appears on much of his campaign material as he runs his presidential campaign. I'm running for president. My name is Jimmy Carter. Oh, that's kind of cool. It says Jimmy Carter and his brothers and sisters got their start in this high chair. And here you can see that politics ran in the family because in 1952, Jimmy's father won the race for state representative in Georgia, General Assembly. It says that's War and Peace, one of Jimmy's favorite books, and said that he was turned on to this by one of his teachers when he was 12, and he agreed to read it because he thought it was about cowboys and Indians. And in that glass case are the farm fence posts from his childhood farm. His father used temporary fence posts to build and repair fences around the farm. And you can see here they're kind of just corkscrewed into the ground. Then right next to it are Carter's Peanuts. That's where he ran that warehouse for years. And the family radio. Now this is showing how deeply Jimmy cared for civil rights, because the people that would watch him when his parents were out of town were African American, and he would actually stay with them. And you can see here these are the kind of signs that would have hung in his town, and there's pictures of him being held by the Johnsons, and it shows that this was his bed. And it says when his parents were away, Jimmy often stayed with the Clarks. There's Rachel Clark right there. Except in his own room, he later wrote of their house, saying that this was where I felt most at home. And Mr. Johnson was the bishop of the Episcopalian Church. And that is the wall from their house. Look at that. You can see where it's insulated with old newspapers. Take a look at this one. Look at what's on the headline. Looking for Amelia. That's a desk from his school. And then it's pretty heavily faded, but that is Jimmy's Arithmetic Workbook from 4th grade. Let me see if I can zoom in and show you a little. This glass might make it a little difficult, but we'll try. And that's his class ring. Take a look at that. That's his diploma and his report card. Take a good look at that. Straight A's in every subject, in every period, every quarter, everything, except for music. Not a great music student later on. And there's the wedding clothes. We saw the photograph from their wedding. Those are the actual clothes they wore. And here are some artifacts from his Navy career. You can see his ring. That's his class naval ring from 1947, and his dolphin pin. stripes. And that is a letter to his parents while he was stationed. Dear folks. So this is showing that while Jimmy was in the Navy, Rosalind's job was to make the baby clothes for their babies, and there's the immunization records, and that's a page from a book called The Navy Wife that Jimmy gave to Rosalind before they got married, just kind of as a warning as to what she should expect. And that one is their marriage license. So this Beaver Award, he was actually awarded in 1969. It was called the Busy Beaver Award for being busy as a beaver for doing good in the community. And that's an offering plate that he made when he came out of the presidency in 1981. He made 4 of them for his church for collections. You know, a lot of people think he wasn't a terribly effective president, but you can't say much about him as a person. He's a pretty excellent person. That used to sit on his desk when he was governor, as you can see. And then check this out. Almonds for Carter. During the campaign, the Allman Brothers Band, the Marshall Tucker Band, the Amazing Rhythm Aces, and the Charlie Daniels Band and James Brown all performed to raise money for Jimmy Carter. Yeah, when we were in the Allman Brothers Big House Museum, we saw letters to like each individual band member at different times from the president, including like to the drummers and all that. Plus, there were pictures of Jimmy wearing Allman Brothers Band t-shirts. Take a look at that. That's hilarious. The Peanut Brigade. That's what he called his support when they were running for office. Look at all the people running against him. And then that's the Carter's extended family. Brothers, sisters, moms, kids. Look at all that. Peanuts to president. Does that mean they thought he was a yo-yo? Frisbee, anyone? It says all people need Jimmy Carter, and all of those buttons are in a different language. Swedish, Hungarian, Norwegian, Jewish, English, Spanish. Now this is saying, of course, that the president's plane is known as Air Force One, and when he was running for president, his campaign plane was known as Peanut One. This is showing his inauguration. Aretha Franklin. Then they also have the clothes that he and Rosalind wore when he was inaugurated. Let's take a look. There's his overcoat. See, there you can see the overcoat he's wearing and hers. And then the smaller one that we saw in there was his daughter's. And then here we have his 4th draft of his inauguration speech, as well as the Bible that he took the oath and was sworn in on. Now we're going into a mock recreation of the Oval Office when he was president.
Day-by-day working basis most of the time. But on occasion I would use a very small office, not too far from me, just a few steps away. Generally I came to the Oval Office quite early in the morning. There was always, during the wintertime, for instance, a very nice fire burning. I would sit in front of the fireplace and read the reports of the intelligence agencies, the nightly report of the Secretary of State, and then later the National Security Advisor, Dr. Brzezinski, would come in and bring me up to date on specific things. Then I would start my day's work of meetings with my cabinet members or my staff members, members of the Congress, and they were very brief, mostly say 15 minutes. But sometimes, like in budget periods, I would spend 2 or 3 tedious hours in here or in the nearby cabinet room trying to decide the budget items of our country, which really sets the priorities for what our nation wants to accomplish.
Now if you look at his desk, look what's on the desk.
At least $1 billion of Iranians involved, and from this point, came home safe and free. I think that was probably the most dramatic moment of my life. the end of a runway in Tehran, and that they would soon be leaving Iran and coming back home. So this is a place of history. It's a place of excitement. It's a place of hard work. It's a place of many very pleasant memories.
And here it's showing one of the things that he had to take on was the lack of faith in the country after the Vietnam War. And these are all buttons from people that he considered for vice presidential candidate running mates. And that's showing the US and Soviet Union locked in the Cold War still during his administration. Alright, let's move along. So this wall showcases quite a few of the gifts that he was given over time. One of which being this cowboy hat worn by some of the Olympic athletes during the 1980 Olympics. And then that's because of the whole Who Shot JR craze. Dallas had debuted in '78 and was the most popular show on television by 1980, and that was the cliffhanger, so they made those as a joke. And then that piece of silver was a gift from Pope John Paul II, given to the Carters during his visit in 1979. And here's an archive wall, so you can start pulling things out and reading. They kind of had this inside the John and Yoko room in Montreal. Presidential pardon. No, that's really cool. That's a photo of at the time, the 5 living American presidents. And it's all signed by George Bush, Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Jimmy Carter. And here's a presidential baseball, also signed by the same men. And you can see right there on the very top is Jimmy Carter's signature. Over there would be George Bush, and there's the presidential seal. And this is really neat. This is the Panama Canal Treaty behind all that glass. The actual one signed and everything. And this says, actor John Wayne was a longtime supporter of conservative causes and politicians, but he came forward to endorse the Panama Canal Treaty, and that was a letter to Jimmy from John Wayne. That's the sweater from the fireside chat that he wore. Said he was wearing it to encourage people to wear sweaters for warmth as opposed to, you know, using up energy, which was extremely volatile at the time. There's his address to the nation on energy, the energy crisis. And these were all gifts to Mrs. Carter while they were in office. And all of the presidents get a presidential portrait, and this was his. Octavio Ocampo, 1979. Very well done, too. Take a look at the detail on there as we get closer. It's like a lot of skyscrapers and almost like church steeples and various buildings that make up him and the suit. Now here's some of the gifts that Jimmy received. A signed Cale Yarborough NASCAR helmet. It's actually signed by quite a few people, but it was Cale Yarborough's helmet. And then they've got a Jimmy Carter Nutcracker, his fire chief badge, a peanut belt buckle, a drawing given to him by Mervyn Levy, and of course this quilt. And then a poster from Marvel Comics saying, "Keep it up, America, keep saving energy." And it's Jimmy with Captain America. Wow, check out that ostrich egg. Look inside. It's like all these nations inside eating at a dinner table. That was a reproduction of the Crown of St. Stephen. And it was basically when the Soviet Union took over Hungary, they were concerned that they would steal this crown, so it was removed by officers. And then once everything was calmed down, it was given back, and then they gave Jimmy a replica reproduction like this as a thank you gift. That's a wood carving called Scenes from Dream of the Red Chamber, which was a popular Chinese literature, and they gave him that as a gift depicting a scene from the book. There's Jimmy's red telephone, the phone he used to use to communicate with the military command centers. It's not the hotline to Soviet leaders, as is often shown in movies. There's one of Rosalind's dinner gowns from hosting the President of Kenya. Here you can see on there they're expressing appreciation to the First Lady of the United States, also calling her the First Lady of Mental Health and honorary chairperson of the Commission. President's Commission on Mental Health. Now we're gonna move on. This says Camp David. And this was made by the grandchildren of the Israeli Prime Minister, and it was given to Amy Carter, and she hung it in her bedroom in the White House. And then it says that all the cabins at Camp David are named after plants or flowers, and Aspen is the president's cabin at Camp David. And that's the Egyptian peace treaty. And that is the shovel that he broke ground on this presidential library with. And that's an overview of what we've been walking through. And apparently he became a big fan of woodworking in his later years, and he made this bench. Those are his fishing boots, so this is all his life post-presidency. And here we have Medals of Freedom. On August 9th, 1999, Jimmy and Rosalind were awarded these by President Bill Clinton. And he's also a Nobel Peace Prize winner. Kind of a, big deal. And believe it or not, Grammy Award winner for a Best Spoken Word album for his America's Moral Crisis book. Now I want to show you the outside reflecting pond, and I've noticed something, and I mentioned it to my mom, and then I went and asked a security guard and she verified it. I said, I've noticed I haven't seen any statue of President Carter on the grounds. And I've been to quite a few presidential museums and they always have one. And the security guard said, no, there is not one here. Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed getting to see President Carter's presidential library and some of the movie history here from Georgia. Have a great night and we will see you all tomorrow. Goodbye.